Hey there and welcome back to Mutant Year Zero. My name is Pete and today we complete episode 20 of our Iron Mutant playthrough of the Seed of Evil DLC. In the last episode we finally reached Goran, or at least what was left of him, and we discovered that the real enemy of this DLC is Old Jaiko, the oldest tree in the zone, and apparently it has become corrupted and is now stretching out its roots to inflict that same fate on the zone around it. We will of course try to put a stop to that, but not in today's episode. We have 2 more optional areas and 2 more side missions to complete before the final confrontation, and today we will tackle one of each. We also don't have much to do here before we get going, but we do have 1 artifact to turn in, so let's do that and unlock our second to last upgrade.
Greetings. I was programmed by Pripp to pull grog and dabble in black market antiquity trading.
With this one we are improving our medkits a bit further, not that we really need that, at least that is what I hope for the last 3 episodes of this series.
So long, flashbacks. Pripp told me to say that.
And speaking of Pripp, that is also who we are going to visit next. As a matter of fact, he is the only Ark inhabitant who currently has anything of interest to say to us. Both Delta and Iridia do unfortunately not have any more voice lines at this point.
There's a rumor going about I'm involved in some kind of triangle. If you find out who the friggin' doofus is who came up with such a story, then please let me know. I could do with a new punching bag. The old one is starting to stink and leak. I'm depending on you guys. Do me proud.
Alright, and with that we are good to go, and our squad that we will start things off with here today consists of Bormin, Dux and Magnus. Bormin has the usual setup with Herpes Mask and Wraith for maximum sneak attack damage, and also an EMP grenade that will come in handy later. Dux meanwhile only has the ancient pistol equipped, indicating that he will not be sticking with us for the entirety of the video, but for those parts that he is with us we will go silently, so the pistol is all that we need. Finally then we have Magnus, whose setup is more or less unchanged from the last episode. He does bring along another EMP grenade though, which might already give you a hint of what we are about to face here today. Speaking of which, today's destination is one of the 2 optional areas branching off of the Frozen City, as today we are investigating the Valley of Steel. At the exit of the Frozen City to this area, we were already able to tell that the Valley of Steel comes with a heavy police theme, so our enemies will very likely fit into that in some form or fashion. As we arrive though, we do not find anything that confirms or denies that theory, at least not right away. Instead, our exploration tour is quickly interrupted before it can really get going. Yes, it looks like Pripp has another side mission for us, and just like the others, this one takes place on the map that we have already cleared once, the Metal Fields. The mission briefing then speaks of a Psi-Lord, so it is likely that we'll be facing at least 1 enemy with psychic abilities, but for the moment let us not worry too much about that. For now, clearing out the Valley of Steel is still our #1 priority.
Another stronghold of the Polis tribe. Big scrap in there and the Ark needs scrap. The place is swarming with machine men. Don't these idiots ever turn off?
And so we now have it more or less confirmed. This area is swarming with robots, and only robots, although that is not really what makes it unique. What really makes this a special mission, and with that a special episode, is the fact that we will take out most of these robots in one go. You know by now that we usually try to isolate enemies and pick them off one after the other, but on this map we are going with a slightly different approach and only take out 3 of the 10 enemies this way. The remaining 7 will all be engaged simultaneously. Now, one of those isolated 3 is the Polis Bot right around the corner here. Before we attack it, however, let's take a look at another note. And this one is actually a little heartbreaking, as it was written by the recipient's father, who informs at least one of his children that the entire rest of the family had already left after being forced to do so by some Polis Bot enforcers. So it looks like in the final days things here were ruled with a literal iron fist. One more good reason, I think, to put an end to all of it, starting with the Polis Bot just outside. Before we engage it, we can quickly grab another rare medkit and then get everyone into cover, make sure that we are not detected before we want to be, and then begin the ambush. And despite 30 hit points and 1 point of armor, this one shouldn't be too difficult.
Better stay away
away from me!
3 sneak attack criticals is all that we need here to get the kill.
Over here.
Now moving on, we can collect a bit more loot here in the area. After all, that is why our stalkers wanted to go here in the first place. And especially in terms of weapon parts, the police station does in fact have a lot of those. Even more interesting than that, however, is the chest waiting for us right over here.
What do we have here?
And with the Police Taco, we now have another very powerful piece of headgear, increasing both grenade damage and weapon range, and as such we will actually use it and both of those properties in today's mission, but not just yet.
This protest is an illegal activity. Remain where you are. Make no move unless you are ordered.
Now, that announcement that you heard in the background, that will continue to run throughout the entire mission. I believe there are 3 separate voice lines for it, and at least at the beginning here I would like you to be able to hear all 3 of those at least once. So as we now clear out the police station, I'll be letting those run uninterrupted.
We are keeping your ones within the city walls for your own safety. If you feel you are not properly sedated, report to the nearest medical tent. Failure to take sedatives will result in criminal prosecution.
And what I said earlier definitely holds true here. This place is an absolute treasure chest.
There is no escape. Gather in the middle of the street with your hands above your head. Do not touch one another.
Now at this point we can slightly speed things up as we wait for a Polis Bot enforcer to pass by below us, after we have already set a lovely little ambush up here. The enforcer comes with 40 hit points and 2 points of armor, so we have to be a little bit more elaborate in our ambush, but I think we should be able to manage. We are starting things off easy though, with just a plain old sneak attack critical from Dux.
Now it's getting fun.
To follow up on that, we can then use Magnus's Super Chain Lightning. And finally, Borman can use 2 sneak attack criticals for the kill thanks to Twitch Shot.
Get your asses over here.
Alright, so that's 2 out of the 3 aforementioned enemies already down, and we can now grab a bit more loot before we then engage number 3. As you might notice in just a moment, we are also passing by yet another ladder in the process, as most of the upper floors on this map do not have any items on them.
This one looks like he was running in this direction, then got shot in the back. Some poor bastard trying to escape the slaughter.
And not only that, around the corner here it gets even worse.
These people didn't fight with weapons. They fought with words. Messages of resistance, of breaking down walls. It takes a brave person not to fight with bullets. Braver than me.
Newsflash. Science don't stop bullets. These blast points, too accurate for ghouls. Only machine men are this precise.
And with a little Star Wars reference, we are now heading upstairs to engage another Polis Bot enforcer. This one, however, a bit more tricky than the one before, as we have no way of getting ourselves any higher. But thanks to Dux in our squad, that should not be an issue, as we can now use his Wings of the Sniper mutation in combination with Circuit Breaker, which will disable the bot for long enough so that we can take it out. So no need for anything out of the ordinary here, just another sneak attack from Magnus, as well as one from Borman afterwards. No action then on the enemy turn, of course, so Borman can go again immediately.
Hurt, don't it?
And then Dux can wrap things up. Right, so at this point we want to exchange Dux for Pharaoh, who is much better in handling groups of enemies like the one that we are about to face. We also want to equip Pharaoh with the newly acquired Police Taco. She can definitely use the grenade damage increase. And finally, the blue oyster cap goes on Borman, who does not need any criticals for this fight.
Follow me.
Protesters may resume illegal activity at any second. Lethal force authorized. Respond with extreme prejudice.
Right, so what we have ahead of us at the moment are 6 Polis Bots with a 7th one currently patrolling. We are now waiting for number 7 to come back into the cluster here, so that we can engage and then eventually take out all of them at once. For that approach to work though, we also want to make sure that the Polis Bot command in the back is in the right position, which is roughly in line with the entrance to the police station. Once that is the case and the enforcer from the left is as far over on the right side as possible, we can then launch the ambush. First of all, we are using our Wings of the Sniper Gunslinger combination with Pharaoh, because once we reveal ourselves, our enemies will use the cover that's around them, meaning we would no longer have a guaranteed hit against the Polis Bot in the back here.
I'm the hero. What do you think about that?
So that is why we have to open with that and can only hit 3 enemies instead of the potential 4 that we could target, at least after using Hog Rush with Bormin here to knock the Polis Bot into the group on the left. That is necessary so that we can target all 4 enemies with an EMP grenade, which we actually would not have been able to do with the Polis Bot in its original position, where it would have been just 1 tile too far away from the other 3. Those 3 now do of course remain active and we want to change that, so let's move up with Magnus here and use his EMP grenade, so that we end up with 7 stunned bots to end our turn. That means we are immediately up again and will continue things with Magnus and his Super Chain Lightning, which can actually affect up to 4 enemies simultaneously, and that is exactly what we do here to grab our first kill. Now, Chain Lightning is without a doubt the most useful ability in this fight, so ideally we are able to use it again on the next turn, but for that we need to get ourselves 1 more kill on this one, but first let's throw that grenade with Pharaoh. Very important here is to aim it as far down as possible to not destroy any of the loot still left in the police station, and once we have done so we can send Bormin over to the Polis Bot to get that second kill. This ends our turn with 2 kills achieved, meaning Chain Lightning is immediately usable again, and this time we will target the group on the right, despite the one on the left promising us 2 easy kills. You may have seen earlier that Bormin's Hog Rush also only needs 1 more kill to be recharged, so let us now grab that kill with Pharaoh.
Say my name, Jizwipe. It's Pharaoh.
And now Hog Rush is usable again, which means Bormin can grab ourselves 2 more kills. That in turn also once again means that Chain Lightning is ready to go again, so let's use it now to end this fight.
Move forward. The scrap we found will keep the arc running. We should get back to our mission.
And there we go, we have just completed the largest fight of the series so far, and I am also not quite sure if we'll be able to top this in what's still to come. Now, one thing I do want to mention here real quick as we collect our last bits of loot, that is the GJP X93, or more commonly known as the EMP pistol. Now, usually one would expect that weapon to be very useful in this fight, were it not for the inconvenient fact that, somewhat contrary to its description, its EMP stun is not actually guaranteed. Yes, despite the fact that it says in its description that this weapon shoots EMP bullets, it does not actually have a 100% stun chance, unlike other weapons that say that they knock back enemies, for example, which do in fact do that 100% of the time. So in my opinion, this makes the weapon more or less useless, as an EMP grenade is always superior in terms of stunning and many other weapons are always superior in terms of damage, and I think I should have mentioned that as soon as we picked it up, but unfortunately I wasn't actually aware of that at the time because I never really used it in any of my previous playthroughs. Now you know though, and can hopefully avoid it in yours, and we have also cleared the map now and are ready to go to the Metal Fields, where we will now complete the 4th of Pripp's side missions. Now, just a few seconds ago, we switched Pharaoh over from Wings of the Sniper to Iron Legs, and we also re-equipped Bormin with the Herpes Mask. All of that in preparation for our first fight in this mission, which, you have probably guessed it already, is going to take place against the Hunter on the train here. With Bormin and Magnus already in cover, we can now loop Pharaoh around to the other side of the train, where she can then also go into cover, and then we wait until the Hunter returns and stops on this side of the train. At that point, we can then start our ambush and use Iron Legs to jump up and simultaneously knock the Hunter down. This deals 4 points of fall damage, but unfortunately Pharaoh does not have a shot from here. Magnus, however, does, and he can even go loud without being noticed.
Stay away from me!
And that's enough for Borman to now deal the killing blow.
Sleep it off.
Regroup.
Right, so that's our first enemy down. We do of course have a couple more to go, and some of those will actually also be stationed on trains very similar to this one. However, in my opinion, the hunter that we just took out is the trickiest of them. All in all though, clearing this map here should be a relatively easy affair. We should actually be able to isolate every single enemy in this area, and in doing so clear the map one enemy at a time. Therefore, we are currently already waiting for the second enemy of the side mission, a patrolling medbot, although unlike the Polis Bot that we faced during the last mission, this one actually has 2 points of armor, so 3 sneak attack criticals will not suffice this time. Instead, we have to open things up with another chain lightning. After that though, it's business as usual, first with Borman, and then with Pharaoh for the kill.
I'm the hero, you're the zero.
So, we have now earned ourselves a level up and will now make a change that we'll make a few more times during this mission, switching Borman from the herpes mask back to the blue oyster cap.
Regroup, now.
The main reason we are doing this is that the blue oyster cap gives Borman a movement range increase, which in turn drastically improves the usefulness of his hog rush ability. And that hog rush ability is what we are going to use against our next enemy hiding inside of the ruined building here. That enemy is named Trainspotter and very much looks to be in possession of those psychic abilities that Pripp mentioned, so let's make sure here that we don't get to experience those in action.
You got.
And despite Borman's hog rush making quite a bit of noise, the hunter stationed on the train wagon in the back does not notice a thing, so we can now move Pharaoh into position and then take another shot.
I am the beautiful weapon. What do you think about that?
Finally then, we are doing the same with Magnus, which will not be enough to kill Trainspotter, but luckily we have another turn to accomplish that.
Knock! Yeah.
Now we will take care of the hunter on the train in just a moment. For now, we can continue to grab some loot and also sneak up on the next enemy, a harmless marauder. By the way, had we not used Bear Smash on Trainspotter earlier, he would have been able to use his psychic abilities to stop the first shot from hitting, so effectively we would have needed to take him down with only 2 of our 3 Stalkers, which would have been quite difficult to say the least. Meanwhile, the Marauder over here is the exact opposite of difficult, and can in fact be taken down with only 2 shots.
Enough!
And so we have once again earned another level, and we can once again make another change as we switch Borman back to the herpes mask once more.
This way.
For the next fight right here, that is actually not needed just yet, as that will once again be another easy one, started by another use of Pharaoh's Iron Legs. This time though, she does have a shot to follow things up with, and can even go loud.
That's from me!
So once again, we only need 2 people here to get the kill. Let's move in Magnus next, who can now deal the final blow.
Stone cold.
Move out.
Right, and with that, we are now more than halfway through. 5 enemies have already been taken out, 4 more remain, and again, none of them should pose too much of a challenge.
Thank you for writing. We appreciate your...
Up next, we are engaging the 3rd and final enemy on a train. Thankfully though, this time we can actually get up there the old-fashioned way. Still, the approach here is a bit tricky as we have to move Bormin more or less right into the hunter's detection radius. If we enter cover fast enough, then we should be able to avoid detection, but this can definitely take a few attempts to pull off. If it does work though, it is by far the easiest way to take out the hunter, as we can now land at least 2 guaranteed critical hits off of sneak attacks. And those 2 crits will be enough, so it does not matter that Magnus gets himself detected here, he simply needs to hit. And that brings us to Bormin, who is still hidden, and therefore still in stealth mode and ready to land the killing blow.
Bullseye!
Over here.
And with that, we are down to only 3 more enemies, but first, let's do some looting. For this one, we will split Bormin off of the main group in just a moment, as that will save us a few seconds.
I'm going alone.
You might still remember this area from the first time we visited. This time, though, it doesn't hold too much of interest.
All bags are subject to search. Passengers.
The scrap pile here is already the last object of interest, and with it collected, we can jump back to Pharaoh.
This way.
This now immediately teleports Bormin back to us, and as a result, we save ourselves a few seconds of going back and forth. Now, coming up next, we have the final 3 enemies of the map, and there are actually multiple ways of engaging them. If we time their movements just right, then it is possible to take them out all at once, but we already had plenty of that in the last mission, so this time we are switching things up a little, and so we also time their moves just right, but instead for the opposite effect, allowing us to isolate them and take them out one after the other. We are already waiting for our first victim here, another hunter, who should go down easily to 3 sneak attack criticals. And again, as long as our enemies don't have armor, we don't actually need 3 criticals, but of course we'll happily take them anyway.
I'm the hero, you're the zero.
You finally figured out how to use that thing?
Now, with another level under our belt, we are moving straight into the next fight here, and for this one we want to make sure that the Pyro is no longer in Railfan's detection radius, so that we can sneakily take them out behind Railfan's back. And there we go, Railfan did not notice any of that, so Pharaoh and Magnus can now go for the kill.
I am the beautiful weapon. Gotcha.
You ain't half bad for a newbie.
One final time then, we want to switch Bormin back to the blue oyster cap. Those few extra tiles of movement simply make Hog Rush that much more reliable. It will take a few more moments longer though until we actually attack Railfan, who is basically the second boss of the area. Ability-wise, I think he is more or less identical to Trainspotter, so our approach will also be very much the same, albeit with loud weapons this time. Again though, before we attack, we are doing a small loot loop here with Bormin. He needs to get over to the other side anyway, and this will save us some time after the fight, so once Railfan is down, we can then return to the Ark more or less right away. For now though, one last fight stands between us and the completion of this mission, so let's jump in, and as always we'll start things off with a good old-fashioned bear smash. And for good measure, let's shoot him afterwards as well. Before Pharaoh can follow things up though, she has to move. Unfortunately, Bear Smash kind of worked against us in this case, as Railfan is currently considered to be behind cover. Still, Pharaoh eventually lands a shot, and with that, removing the last hit point should not be too difficult for Magnus. And that's it. Now there is only one more thing left to do here.
What wonders shall be revealed?
Alright, and with that we have grabbed ourselves a second Noah Toon LP50. Pharaoh currently has the other one equipped, albeit fully upgraded, and with this being among the most powerful weapons in the entire game, it will surely be added to our loadout sooner than later. Its acquisition also marks the point where we return to the Ark and wrap up today's episode. The next one will be very similar to this one. We will once again complete an optional area and another side mission, and then we are finally ready for the big finale. Until then, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.